Dear students, today we are going to discuss both these chapters talk about the condition of women in untouchable community. So let us start, okay? And there are, because I'll be giving explanation in between, but these writings are self-explanatory. If you are reading properly, you even don't need any explanation. So let's start. The other world had bound us with chains of slavery, but we too were human beings, and we too desire to dominate, to wield power. But who would let us do that? So we made our arrangements to find slaves, our very own daughter-in-laws. So this chapter 8 number is dedicated to daughter-in-law. What is the condition of daughter-in-laws in untouchable community, about which baby Kamble is writing. If nobody else, then we could at least enslave them. Young girls, hardly 8 or 9 or 10-year-old, were brought home as daughter-in-laws. Girls even younger were married off. They were children who could not even remember their marriage. A marriage means chaos. Please note this point. A marriage means chaos, especially for a girl. A lot of hustle and bustle for 8 days. People would go to find out, cut trees and fetch the trunk for erecting the pandal in front of the house. Once it was covered with the leaves of neem and karanja, pandal was ready for conducting the marriage. The bride's family was given a bride price for around 15 to 20 rupees. The bride's father had to meet the expenses of the marriage. The bride's family had to go to groom's place for events. They had to reach a day earlier than the marriage. They were given a dinner of pitale and bhakri. In the morning, they would begin with the haldi ceremony, applying haldi to bride and groom. A small platform called bohole. Now please note down this word, bohole. If you are writing these words and sentences in your answer, that gives very authentic look. We would be raised with the bricks, and it would be raised with the bricks and blanket of sheep wool spread on top of it. Then square would be drawn on it and filled with the wheat grains. The bride and groom had to sit on this. 5 suvaasinis who with auspicious stars would be the first to apply the haldi. They would then tie paper mandwali around their heads. Then Shenai players would start playing. The people would be respectfully invited to attend the marriage. Women who came to apply the haldi were given saltless ghughria of jowar grains, which they would receive their pallav. This was an important ritual. In fact, the women would themselves bring the jowar. The 7-year-old bride would be dressed up in 9-yard sari. Now this is a paradox, okay? 7-year-old bride is being draped in a 9-yard sari. How difficult and paradoxical this. White with wide red border and thick blouse. The woman would put several things in her palla, which ended up weighing at least 2.5 kilo. The mundavali around her head would also be very heavy, weighing at least half a kilo. On the first day, both the bride and the groom were bathed while the Sehnai played around in ground. Then their parents, aunts and uncles would also undergo ritual bath. Once they were bathed, the bride and the groom were made to sit on the bohol. 2 large haldi mixed with water be kept ready. The woman would come forward to pat a handful of wet haldi first on the head, followed by the face, and finally the hands and the feet of the bride and groom. The ceremony would be taken whole day. The group of girls called Karawalis from both the bride and the groom's side would carry small purse full of betel leaves. They would prepare pan and keep offering them to bride and groom. The Karavalis too would keep chewing pan. Once the ceremony was over, the bride and groom were taken to special ritual meal along the Karavali. The ritual meal comprised of huge plateful of rice topped with piece of jaggery. The bride and the groom hardly go to eat the food. The Karavali would finish most of the rice, all the while Shehnai would continue playing, provide a melodious background. The Haldi ceremony took place day before the marriage. In afternoon, around 4 o'clock, a ritual bath was arranged for the bride and the groom. Two wooden boats would be placed in the courtyard and two huge plates on the both sides. The pots would contain water with the boiling hot. 4 small jugs would keep on the 4 sides and cotton thread would be taken around the jug 5 times. The bride and the groom had to sit on the platform without touching the thread. The bride had to cover the face with veil. She has applied oil and groom's had with both her hands. The grooms would rub some oil on his ears using his fingers. Then the bride was made to pour 5 jugs of water on his head. She had to stand up for this, but the groom would continue to sit down. He poured 5 jugs of water on his bride's head. All that would make the ground quite muddy. Then the bride's brothers would push the groom into the mud and roll him around till he was fully covered with the mud. Once the bath was over, the Karavali on the groom's side would pick him up on the shoulder and the bride's Karavali would do the same. The bride and the groom were not allowed to walk on their feet for the 5 days. On the day of the marriage, the bride would be given her bridal sari to wear. The little girl would feel like she was drowning into that sari. The groom would be dressed in a thick coarse dhoti khadi jacket with a huge turban on his head. He would resemble a scarecrow perfectly. By the time the bride and the groom were both ready, preparations for the marriage ceremony would be completed. 2 huge cane baskets would be kept facing each other. The stone slab for the grinding condiment would be kept in each basket. The bride and the groom would made to stand on these. Then the khadi towel was held between the couple and they would not be able to see each other. Their mamas would stand behind them and the bride and groom wore huge mundavalis and other over those they wore. Their foreheads covered with kumkum. Ones could not even catch a glimpse of the bride and groom as the poor creatures would be literally buried under all this weight. All guests would then be given rice grain and would colored with haldi and akshata to shower the couple at the time of marriage. The Brahmin priest. Now this is significant. This whole paragraph is significant. Please reread it again because this is how the dichotomy of the caste system you will be able to understand how this is superficial. A Brahmin priest would be invited to solemnize the marriage. He would stand at the distance for a fear of pollution, but he would never make any compromise on his dakshina. Then he took away without any fear of pollution. Apart from the dakshina, the money he was also acquired to be given about 2 kilo of chana dal, 1.5 kilos of rice, 3 kilo of wheat and huge plate full of jaggery. This was called dry grocery. For the marriage feast, chapatis were prepared and cooked with chana dal and salt. The cooked dal was distributed among several households for grinding. Children with their nose running would surround their mothers when they sat down to grind the dal. They would keep snatching and the mixing and devouring it. There would be flies, hordes of them flying around. Many would fall into the dal. A minimum of 10 flies would be crushed during every round of grinding. See, this is how, the condition of poverty, which you can actually see here. These 2 lines, if you just mention in your answer, this is going to be very exact quote which you are doing from the text. So, a minimum of 10 flies would be crushed crushed during every round of the grinding. The ground dal would be rolled into the huge ball. The children would eat these all days. The flies were terrible. One could not eat without at least 3 of them falling into one's plate. People had to continuously ward them off. So too many flies are there. On the third day, such chapatis would be prepared once again. The bride and the groom would be made to apply haldi on each other. The bride was then made to wear heavy brocade sari called shalu, SHALU, with a design of coconut tree on its pallav. She would be taken away and hidden among boys who had been dressed and decorated like her. The groom had to find his hidden bride among the crowd. This usually posed a problem since he had never seen her before. How he has to recognize her, it was a tough job. The groom had to search for her all over the place. The brother would hide the bride by surrounding him. This would make such extremely difficult for the groom. Finally, he would bribe the Karavalis with coconut and catch hold of his wife. He had to carry her on his shoulder up to the ritual bathing platform. Once he put her down, the boys would make him admit that he had lost to them and would take a kun blouse piece from him. So these are the rituals which we are going, but it is interesting to read. Once again, the bride was made to sit down for a bath next the groom. Then the two brass plates full of haldi kumkum would be kept before the couple. 2 betel nuts would be dropped in the plates. First, the groom had to hold a betel nut tightly and 2 fingers of his left. The bride was supposed to prise the betel nut out of this. This ritual was repeated 3 times, then the act was reserved. It was bride's turn now to hold the betel nut. The way she held it would be quite different from the groom. She would lock her finger, holding the betel nut tightly in her palm. The groom would had to take the betel nut using only 2 fingers. He would have to work hard as it was difficult to prise the nut out of her finger. He would soon close to tear. The bride's Karavali would shout and encourage. She would tighten her hold. The entire Maharwada would present and witness this game. The bride would not give in. The grooms would be prepared to cut off her finger. Finally, the groom's parents would coax the girl to release the betel nut. This ritual was prepared for 3 days. So these are the marriage rituals we are reading. After the ritual bath, the girl was given another huge heavy sari with equally heavy blouse. The buttonless blouse would have to be tied up with the knots. The knot would come almost up to her chin. The little bride would be buried under the mundawali and bashinga, and the weight down by her pallav filled with the various things. This was called the sada ritual. After sada, there would be a procession called rukhwat. Crescent-shaped puris filled with the sniffing made. The chana plate would be tied to dry branch. A comb and several toys made wheat flour were also tied to a branch, along with many token sandals. People dressed up to represent character from the mythology as well as real life would follow this procession with the cane basket filled with small ritual offerings. The Shehnai plate would lead the procession. Many people dressed as a father and mother of the groom would walk along, their forehead covered with the wet kumkum. For half a day, this procession would go all over Maharwada. Everybody in the Maharwada would dance madly. Finally, it would arrive the marriage pandal. People from the both sides gathered around. The rukhwat baskets would be kept between the 2 groups. Everybody would be eager to see what was inside. Generally, the groom's brother and sister were given honor of opening it. Meanwhile, the woman of the bride's family would start singing naughty songs which would be parodied of the groom's mother. The song called her Inibai and his father Yvonne. Here comes the rukhwat. Come and watch. So you just please remember this name. The songs called her Inibai and father Yvonne. So these are the marriage ritual songs. And these are the songs. Our Inibai got an itch in her crotch, give her a couch season on heat. Our brother is so mad, he says, you know what, get the buffalo from a jatra to fuck her. Then the only thing that can please her, get up, Ivan, take off her clothes, show her the house, give her a bath. This song would make the groom's mother burst into tears. She would shriek the wholer with the rage. Then the woman from the groom's side would pacify her, retort with another song, and would mock the bride's mother. Also dressed in Inibai comes the Rukhwat. These are the songs. So, no, our own Ivan around the catch hold of hordes. Come, friend, and watch the farce. Thus, Inibai cools off her itch. So, groom's mother doles out with sweets. This would enrage the other side so much so that the fight would erupt. How dare you invite us to village and insult? And they would shake. Both sides would fierce freely hurl abuse of each other. Tempers ran wild, and if the bride's side proved to be too dominant, the in-laws would straightway attack the bride's mother and pull her hair. Then fierce quarrel would ensues again. Finally, snares people from both the sides would prevail, and both the end of the fighting and bride's mother and groom mother would make up each other. On the fourth day of the marriage ritual, the ceremony taking of bridal's crown would be performed. This would always be done in the morning. People from both the families would gather for the occasion under the specially built pandal. Brass plates would be placed on the head of the bride's mother, and other would hold the plate in. Then men would quietly sit on the side. Women with the tears steaming down and sing the Zulu song. And these are the songs. Zulu by Zulu in front of a house. There was a lovely juju tree. Then came thief, son-in-law. He carried off all of to see, but what trees? My poor love helpless weep. Zulu by Zulu in front of the house. There was a jasmine vine. Weep not, O poor mother of mine. Zulu by Zulu in front of the house. There was a champak white. Weep not, O poor father of the mine. Zulu by Zulu, flock of the birds have flown away out of straits. So Zulu by Zulu. So this is how the song is there. However, the girl's marriage meant nothing but calamity. After marriage, she was allowed to stay with her parents a few days, but then her sasra would go to fetch her. He would bring him gram, rice and jaggery. The bride's mother would then prepare a small sweet meat with these. The girls would carry the basket filled with these sweets for a new home. Thus the girl would embark upon a new life, that harsh and arduous. She was a very young girl, a child really, still immature. Yet the poor child had to break all the ties of the love and to go her in-laws' house to lead the married life without even knowing what the husband meant and what would be given. Brides in those days were no vehicle, and when the cock crow early in the morning, the sasra would start in daughter-in-laws on the foot and took 3 to 4 days to reach home. Even if the place was closed, they invariably would have to walk for the entire day. The bride arrived in her in-laws' home. She would be asked to make bakris, 2 basketful. The child would sit down to make them, but she would not be able to pat the balls of the dough into proper round shape. They would remain thick and small, no bigger than her palms. Then she would put them a hot tawa. It would invariably get burnt some places and remain uncooked in some. Then the sasu would call all her friends and neighbors and hold on open exhibition for the tiny burnt bakris. Atabai, come and see what's happening. You think brought her a daughter of a woman into my house. Look at this bakris and slut she prepared. She can even a few bakris properly. Oh well, what can be expected from this daughter of dons? The child would not even allow to sleep. When the cock crowed at the 3 morning, the sasu would wake up, dragging her by her hair. She would make her clean grinding stone and would sit to grind some jowar with her. But almost immediately the sasu's newborn baby would wake up and start crying. Then the sasra would yell, come here, this Dhondia is crying. Come and stop wailing. Leave grinding to her, otherwise, when will she learn? The Sasu would promptly get up from mill and go back to sleep, nursing her baby. The young girl had to continue with her work, and tiny hands often could not pull heavy stones, and she would leave to stop frequently. Her palms would get blistered, and later they would harden. After the grinding was done, she would be sent to a river as small vessels of fresh water. When this was done, she had to sit down to make bakaris. If the bakaris weren't perfect, her Sasu would examine the kneaded flour and slap the girl on the face and unbagged bakaris, pinch her cheek, shower a million of abuse on her, and tell so she's good married off. And this know how only to run after a pot maker's donkey. She teach. I mean, this is all abuse is being hurled on the daughter-in-law. Then she would mourn her fate loudly and go to the voices drench itself, would not even dare to call dog or hen in our laws, house by name, whatever, and address these animals respectfully. Even we kick them. We would get a Sasu as nice me and pampered brat. Lift the plate on your lap and eat, and you are like beast and made eating so simply out of control. Then the poor girl had to endure the abuse of everybody in the house, including her haughty sister-in-laws and her lousy brother-in-laws. By the time she finished all the work, it would be 1:30 in the afternoon. By then, the bakaris would have been eaten. All that left would be half-burnt, half-baked bakaris she herself had made up, and she would then eat them. She would steal some salt with kitchen and when her Sasu was not looking, and hide in her sari. The Maha daughter-in-law experienced one's comfort, however. There was no pot in the house to clean and no clothes to wash. This is a very paradoxical. So the Maha daughter-in-law's experienced one comfort, however. There was no pot in the house to clean and no clothes to wash, because there was not even enough to rag to wear. So this is a very significant point. Please note it down. This pronounce chilled the heart of women and made them tremble with fear. They would hastily apply kumkum and kaldi and process forehead of all her. Amidst this chaos, the poor daughter-in-law would tremble like a leaf and petrified, unable to single word. She would watch the people around her with sinking heart. The furious husband would beat her up and drive her out of the house, and this was easy prey. So the husband has beaten her. Then the making things worse, woman would become possessed, and then she would start chanting, because of my blessing that would save from this woman. This woman is evil, present in our house, and even trust her, that you too forget your God. So this is how that daughter-in-law is being abused and tortured. The neighborhood woman would simply love such conspiracies and provide some excitement for their family uneventful lives, and would gather in front of the tortured girl and wanted to kill whole family. She shouted she didn't attempt to stab her family in front of her. So this is how, if you just read it, it's all how daughter-in-law is being punished. The daughter-in-law finished grinding the jawar, and Sasu would send her to fetch water. Sasu would whisper and that Sirangya follow her to river and whistle her, keep her under your thumb, otherwise you will be disgraced in public. And then Sasu would grind home and bangles and mix them. So this is a very painful situation. When the daughter-in-law is gone, the Sasu would grind these glass bangles and mix them with the flour, and then she would name her daughter-in-law. So daughter-in-law, in return, she would be asked to make bakaris with that flour, and the Sasu would put a piece in bakri into her mouth and spit it, and then she would go to the house, and then this woman, this daughter-in-law, want to kill us. So these are the conspiracies made by the mother-in-law, and this is of how they were able to make the life hell of that small daughter-in-law. So that's why on the basis of this chapter we can say that how the Dalit patriarchy exists and how the women are being tortured.